All right, folks, it's Thanksgiving, the week of Thanksgiving in the United States. It's now the day after Thanksgiving. I've been busy with preparations most of the week, so I think I missed, Tuesday? Did I miss Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday? I might have, or maybe I was here Tuesday, who knows. But in the meantime, Geert Wilders, it appears, is going to become the next Prime Minister of the Netherlands. His party, the PVV, the Party for Freedom, has the most seats in the parliament. Is not a majority, because Netherlands is one of these countries where they have a million different political parties, and so I think he probably ended up with like 25% of the seats. Because if I remember correctly, he won 37. The majority, you need 76 for a majority, so what would that mean? I guess there's 150 seats total. So yeah, when you think about it that way, okay, winning 37 seats out of 150, that's not a big deal. Well, it is when you consider the size of all the other parties. And the fact that there are other right-wing parties who I believe are going or will be willing to form a coalition with the PVV. It's not like the situation in Germany where literally every party agrees that the AfD, which is the only sane party in Germany, they are Hitler revisited, and no one can ever speak to them. They're complete political outcasts. Even if the AfD became the largest party in the Bundestag, there would never be an AfD chancellor because no other party would form a coalition with them. Not the case, I don't think, with the PVV, because I did the math. I added up. I'm not super familiar with the parties in the Netherlands. Obviously, I'm not Dutch. I'm not even European of any persuasion. And so I assumed that Mark Rutte, who is the current prime minister, that his party, who is technically the center-right party, so they're like the Republicans, he's the one who wanted to seize all the farmland. He's one of those Republicans. We have people like that here in the United States. What's her name? The South Dakota governor. I believe she's perfectly fine with eminent domaining away farms for the sake of the Great Reset. But anyway, off topic. Unlike most people, I'm not going to make the Dutch election about America. So anyway, I looked at all the parties that have like center right or right wing, like on their Wikipedia page, and that weren't the Mark Rutte's party, which I believe his is. He also has freedom in the name. Is his like VVD? I think. Yeah, I think it's PVV and VVD. So the VVD, assuming that they will not work with the PVV, which I think is probably a safe assumption, the other parties of the right are large enough to form a majority with the PVV. So I think it's probably a relatively safe bet that Geert Wilders will be the prime minister. And so, who is Geert Wilders? Many of you may be asking, since I am American, and anyone who subs to this channel, for the most part, is American, though I know not all of you are. Most of you probably are not Dutch, at the very least. Well, Geert Wilders is being called by the American media the Dutch Trump, which perhaps is a little more of appropriate use of that term than it was with Milei, who they were calling Argentine Trump, who realistically was not Trump at all. He was Trump-like in the sense that he engaged in a lot of sexual promiscuity and bragged about it. But that's kind of where the similarities with Trump ended. He had a style. On a very superficial sense, yes, Milei has a lot in common with Trump in how they act. Geert Wilders, on the other hand, has more in common with Trump as far as politics goes, because he ran on pretty much the same issues that propelled Trump to winning the presidency of the United States. Although Geert Wilders been around in politics doing this shtick longer than Trump. Geert Wilders' his message has not changed, to my knowledge, very much. although I did not follow this current Dutch election. I don't think his message has really changed since, way before Trump ever was running for president. Geert Wilders was around back then, still just as orange as Trump, and just as orange as he is today. You know, warning about the dangers of mass migration into Europe after the U.S. fueled the Syrian civil war, after the U.S. started the Syrian civil war and created this mass wave of human beings fleeing Africa and the Middle East. And so after all that time, it appears that message is finally resonating with the Dutch people. And I'm happy for them if that's the case. Because the Netherlands is still, for the moment, is a unique country. They definitely are distinct from, the rest of Europe and the rest of the world. And I actually think that different cultures should be preserved. I don't like this whole idea that we're just going to all amalgamate into a blob that has no artistic creativity, that has no vernacularisms, that has no architectural beauty, a world where nobody lives on actual land. We all live in pods, and we simply, perhaps, if we're given a day off by our masters, we could go visit nature. But all of the land will be controlled by people like Mark Rutte, who just sees farms for no reason, and then, builds housing projects to store more of his migrant hordes. And so if any nation in continental Europe deserved someone like Geert Wilders, needed someone like Geert Wilders, it would be the Netherlands. After all, the Netherlands were ground zero for the founding of the European Union, for the modern globalist movement. They were one of the first three countries. They formed the Benelux bloc, which later evolved into the European Union. And considering how long that Geert Wilders has been sort of on the same side of this fight, I'm not really worried about him. He's someone who I think has he's earned trust. He's never had power, and he could have said different things if he wanted to just attain power. He could have gone about a very different way of politicking. Instead, he stuck to his guns and he stayed a fringe figure for a very long time, and has only recently gained prominence. And so he kind of reminds me of Farage in that sense. Farage was someone who was always around in British politics. He was always, I'm the anti-European Union guy. That was his thing. And then, all of a sudden, when after being around for so long and never winning anything, Farage won. He won everything. He got everything he wanted. Well, for the most part. It was a shock to people. But at the end of the day, he's still that guy. Farage is still Mr. I don't want the EU. He didn't sell that out. He didn't cut a deal with Boris Johnson to do soft Brexit so that he could get a cabinet position. He didn't try and rejoin up with the Tory party so that they could use him as a symbol and basically sell their soft Brexit as something other than what it was. And so I think Geert Wilders probably will be as committed to his core issues. And that doesn't mean that I agree with the man on everything. I don't know much about him other than his stance on immigration and what have you. But he's always come across as he does look quite goofy. He comes across as a genuine person. And so I do like people, even when even if I have difference with them on other things, it doesn't matter to me so much, especially since I don't live in his country. But I respect when there's an actual genuine person who participates in politics, because that is far from the norm. that is almost statistically insignificant. The amount of genuine people who operate in the political space. There are 99.9% phonies and frauds. Even a lot of the villains in politics don't believe their own crap. They're not even, they're almost worse than evil at heart, because they're just doing evil things for the money, for the power, for the influence. They don't even necessarily believe in the evil agendas that they promote. So, on that note, I would like to leave us off with 3 cheers for Geert Wilders. Who am I saying? Who am I kidding? That would be cringe. I'm not going to actually do that, but, in your head, you can imagine that I gave 3 cheers for Geert Wilders. So, I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.